For those of you joining in over on YouTube, about to go live here on TikTok once again. Going to be talking news, politics. We got a couple things today. Found out that Jared Kushner's father, Jared Kushner being Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner's father, Charles, is been nominated by Donald Trump to be the ambassador to France. For those of you joining in, we are talking news, politics, and things going forward. We got a little bit of news today. A couple things came out. Donald Trump has named Charles Kushner the father of Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, as ambassador to France. Now, I believe ambassador positions still have to go through the Senate confirmation process, so I don't know if he'll be confirmed, if that's required. But just kind of interesting that he picked Charles Kushner. Now, Donald Trump had pardoned Kushner before in his first term, so it's interesting that he is picked a convicted, pardoned felon for ambassador to France. It just shows how unserious this guy is about actually leading. He's picking some of the worst possible candidates for every possible position. And that's just who he is. He's already says, what do you expect about what we're getting? Unfortunately, the American people have elected a clown, and now we're getting the circus. Except for the fact I think the clown would be smarter. Donald Trump isn't going to pick qualified people for his cabinet. He's just not. He kicked out most of the qualified people the first time around. They'd say something he didn't like, he'd fire them. And now those same people don't want to have anything to do with his cabinet administration this time around. So, Donald Trump as, handling my own moderation because I haven't seen my moderator pop in yet. He's deliberately doing this to make dudes like Putin appreciate him, maybe. Yeah. Definitely don't think Kennedy is going to be cleaning up our food. Kennedy probably won't get through the Senate confirmation process. And that's just a fact, realistically. Some of the worst people that have to still get confirmed by the Senate, the senators aren't going to approve them. I don't care if they're in the same party. Those senators, a third of the elected senators, have to go back to their states and get reelected in 2 years. And they put a clown like Kennedy in as head of Health and Human Services, overseeing the FDA. There's no way they can run on that as a campaign idea. They would get clobbered. And yes, Biden did have a better cabinet because Joe Biden's cabinet didn't all get fired or quit on him. They all were qualified for the positions they were in. That's the thing that the MAGA people don't understand. You don't want a circus. They like the flashy politics that Donald Trump brings and bringing in all these wild candidates because it's a circus. It's entertainment. It's something like that. They prefer that. Whereas Democrats, they put in qualified people who you don't hear about. They're afraid Kennedy might impact their lobbyists, which make politicians rich. That could be part of it, but just the simple fact that a bunch of what Kennedy wants to do is wildly out there. Like he wants to take fluoride out of drinking water, saying it's harmful when you know, places have tried it, it has been proven that those who are drinking water without fluoride in it, is actually worse for your teeth. It's been proven. And this is coming from a guy with bad teeth. So I just don't think people like Kennedy get through the confirmation process. I don't know if Charles Kushner, I think all ambassadors have to get confirmed by the Senate. I don't think Kushner gets through the confirmation process if he'd need to be confirmed. And it's just going to be a clown show. Some of the worst of them will not get confirmed. It's going to be a thing because, like I keep saying, a third of the Senate is up for re-election. And they are going to be, they're going to have to run on some of the stuff. What does flying geese have to do with what we're talking about? But I just don't think some of these picks get confirmed by the Senate. I really don't. You know, Kushner and Kennedy and all that stuff. It's just not going to happen. Oh, there's another one. And now that we're into December, you can expect the annual fake war on Christmas to begin, where the outraged right in this country will, you know, start talking about how there's a hang on, handling my own moderation here. And no, every nominee will not be confirmed. Donald Trump didn't get all of his nominees through the first time. And he had more political capital back then because he had a chance for a second term. Donald Trump cannot run again in 2028. He brings nothing more to the table. And that's if he survives all 4 years. He may not be president in 4 years. He might not be president in 2. Another creator I follow on here was saying he thinks that it's entirely possible that Donald Trump could be out before midterms because Republicans are worried that having Donald Trump as the president at the midterms could start costing them seats in the midterms. And if Democrats take control of Congress in the midterms, Donald Trump ain't getting nothing done in the last 2 years of his presidency. Everything will get blocked. You know, for as bad as things look, there's a lot of hope because they don't have the numbers to do half of the stuff they want to do. They just don't. There's, you know, they're going to have potentially after the after the Republicans that have been nominated by Donald Trump get pulled out of the House, until those seats get filled via the special elections, it's entirely possible that the Republicans hold the House by a 1-seat majority. 1. That is, they would be at the bare minimum. Last time Republicans or anybody really had the House with this kind of margin was like 1929 with Herbert Hoover. Neil says, bro, you speak the truth, you and Boomer. Well, thank you. Glad you put me in that same category. I love being over on the Rational Boomer podcast whenever I get a chance. Mike and I are of a like mind, and we have a great conversation whenever I do it. Love the Rational Boomer. I get a lot of good information from him. He looks at and sees things the way I, kind of the way I look at it. What can they actually do, and what not I get away from the what could they do and start looking at what they actually will do or what's probable, what's likely. There's a lot of things they may try to do, but they just don't have the votes. And if they go too crazy, uh, when midterms roll around, they're not they're not going to get reelected. And as I said just a little bit ago, if Democrats take the House and the Senate in the midterms, Donald Trump ain't getting shit done the last 2 years of his presidency. If he doesn't even have the House or the Senate, especially the Senate, nobody else gets confirmed. No judge positions go through. They'd have to pick moderates, and Donald Trump wouldn't do that. It's just at worst, it's going to be 2 years of really bad. It could be, it's not going to be nearly as bad as it could be potentially. These tariffs Donald Trump wants to put in. I was reading something that says one of the laws that gives him the power to implement the tariffs only allows him to put the tariffs on for like 5 months or something like that. Solomon says not enough votes in 4 years isn't long enough. Most of what he does will executive order, and they will all get reversed. Yeah, exactly. And the thing about the executive orders, there's a lot of things he may try to do with executive orders, but those executive orders will end up getting overturned in the courts and things like that. Like he wants to issue an executive order. Taco Assassin says, what about his second term? This is his second term. Donald Trump is ineligible for another term, no matter what he may say or try to do. The Constitution is very clear in the 22nd Amendment, I think, says no person shall be elected to the office of president more than twice. It doesn't say twice consecutive, it says twice. And at the point in which they had made that amendment, Grover Cleveland had already been president for 2 terms that were not consecutive. So that had already happened in American history. If they wanted it to be consecutive terms, they would have said that. So he doesn't get a second term. This is his second term. This is the end of the line for Donald Trump, which is why I keep saying he doesn't bring a lot to the table anymore. He can't get a lot done. Kate says Trump can't accomplish a third of what he wants. Exactly. Like I was starting to say with the executive orders. He's going to issue these executive orders. Like he may try to issue an executive order about the birthright citizenship. He issues that executive order saying that he's ending birthright citizenship. Guess what? That goes against the 14th Amendment, and courts are going to toss it. He has something to think about with Donald Trump. If Donald Trump don't make it and J.D. Vance becomes president, can wonder where you were going with that. One says he wants to be a dictator and stay in government forever. Yeah, he might. Oh, Mark. Okay, he might want to, but he won't. Can Vance run for Donald Trump for a second term? No. What would happen is Vance wouldn't be running for Donald Trump. He would be running for his own term. I mean, yes, Vance could run for another term, but yeah, he could finish out Donald Trump's term, sure. But Vance, I don't think Vance gets elected on his own. I don't think he stands a chance to get elected, especially depending on how he becomes president. Trump's war against science makes his own people slower. Half of them deny basic science. Exactly. They. He loves the poorly educated. Will the election be certified? I believe so. I'm not holding out hope that something is going to happen and magically change the outcome. Now is a date coming up here I guess technically it's next month in December, where every state has to have their elections certified on, and when those states certify their elections and the electoral college actually shows up in each state, the people that were nominated to be electors, they will sign the petitions, or the certifications, and then it'll get certified on January 6th. Trump is a once in a lifetime candidate. No, yeah, he's an unusual once in a lifetime candidate. Emily says, fellow Iowan, keep doing what you're doing. We do need it. Yeah, I was really disappointed with how Iowa went. I really thought Iowa would know better, especially with how bad he screwed the farmers back in 2018. Trump told them he loves the poorly educated. They took it as a compliment. Exactly. He insults them to their face, and they cheer him. Tommy Rogers has already been gone. Yeah. Brad Smith says, where in Iowa? Well, I'm not going to disclose which part of Iowa I'm in, but what about Kash Patel? Yeah, I think I know where you're going with this, so I'll just nip that in the butt. I don't get down to Des Moines very often, but usually when I do, it ends up killing a lot of time down there. Oh, Trump nominated Patel for FBI director. I hadn't heard that, but I saw a stat. I don't remember how far back. Republicans have nominated every FBI director going back like 30 or 40 years. Tariffs will hurt farmers. Did they forget what happened last time? Exactly. We had soybeans rotting in the fields because nobody'd buy them. We had to do a big bailout. But I had a coworker come up to me like a week or so ago and was a younger guy trying to remember why we got the stimulus checks in 2020 with COVID. And I think at least some have forgotten why we got the stimulus checks and just think that if we elect Donald Trump again, that they're going to get another check in their mailbox, that they're going to get another stimulus money. It was there because the economy was at a standstill, but they forget that part, just that, hey, they got a check. Yeah, because Trump crashed the economy. Yeah, and they think it was Trump's money, like Kate says. Yeah, exactly. Because Donald Trump delayed the sending of those stimulus checks by a couple weeks so they could make sure his signature was on them. Yeah, RFK said in the video that heroin helped him get ahead. Yeah, exactly. Brad says, good to see an intelligent political observer still in our state. Yeah. Um, I really thought better of Iowa. I thought we'd do much better. I thought I thought Iowa was smart enough. I mean, we used to be a purple state. We used to be a swing state prior to Donald Trump. And just before Donald Trump, as Iowa was turning purple or trending blue, Republicans needed a way to beat the Democrats. So what they do? They dug up Terry Branstad, that old fossil, ran him for governor, and uh, they ran Terry Branstad forever. And there you go. People went, oh yeah, I remember him, and voted for him. It'll be a rude awakening for those who voted for Trump. Yeah, we've entered the find out stage of fuck around and find out. The MAGA Republicans have fucked around, and now they're going to find out. Smart says, I'm a teacher. What's going to happen with the Department of Education and Head Start? Now, I think the Department of Education is going to stay, because in order to get rid of the department, they would have to take it through Congress. And I just don't see congressional Republicans be able to go in and, vote out the Department of Education. Because they would have to go back and run on it in 2 years or less, depending on when they would pass it, and go to their state. Look at the good thing we did. We abolished the Department of Education, the department that handles all of the, student loans and the, disability stuff and the special needs people. All of that money, all of those resources come from the Department of Education. And I just don't know that Republicans could go back to their states or districts and run on it. Knowing that they can't get elected on it. Establishment Republicans will slow play all of it for the first 2 years. Exactly. The Department of Education needs reform, but dismantling it will be horrible for anyone. Yeah, exactly. Well, and the one article I read said what they want to do is they don't want to entirely they want to dismantle the Department of Education, but move like a bunch of the stuff so it still happens, but put it under the purview of other departments and basically just move it around so that nobody knows where to go to get those resources. And now, like, student loans and grants and things would be overseen by the, Department of the Treasury. Well, now the Treasury's got to do all of the work over again and establish all of the things that the Department of Education's already done. I just don't think it happens. Solomon Kane says education should be done at the local level. Most of the decisions about the education is done at the local level. The biggest thing the Department of Education does is make sure everybody gets a chance to get that education. Department of Education does not set curriculum nationwide. States do. That's why certain textbooks are not allowed in certain states. They have to print them certain ways. They have to leave out certain things, change wording. because certain states won't allow certain textbooks. They fund the programs, sure. But a lot of it is they give the money to like the school district itself instead of giving it to the state and hope the state gives it where it's supposed to go. Okay, handling a little moderation because I haven't seen my moderator yet. Um, but kind of just did this last minute. All the red states will have it the worst. Exactly. Exactly. The red states are going to have it the worst. Most red states, and there's a couple exceptions, are taker states. And I don't know the exact breakdown, but effectively, for every dollar they kick in federal taxes, they get back like a dollar something in aid. So they're taker states. And if you start shrinking the money coming from the federal government, they're not going to have that income. They're not going to be able to offset it themselves. Yeah, California gets like 80 cents per dollar. Exactly. California, for every dollar they kick into the federal government, they only get 80 cents. They're a donor state. Yeah, California gives more tax money than any other state. Exactly. They're a donor state. Well, now Lost Soul truly is lost. We support red states with our taxes. Thank you to California. Oh yeah, say thank you to California, all your red states. Exactly. Exactly. Um, and that covers a lot. But then when they want to kick it back to the states, if they don't, if the federal government's not funding it, the states don't have the funds to pick up the uh, the slack. Yep. That's just how it is. The red states do not have the funds to pick up the slack. Yeah. What's the point here? We're talking news, politics, and what's going on now and what's gonna happen coming up. Elijah's Politics says, can always spot it when they say I don't even like Trump. Meanwhile, believe I realize as exactly. Claims to be a Democrat, says he voted for Trump. Uh, yeah. Texas governor is pushing vouchers. What would happen to public schools? Exactly. They want to dismantle public schools. They want the voucher program so that uh, you can give your tax dollars to a private school instead of giving it to a public school. But then the private school is not going to be bound by the same rules of the public school. But then that public school has even less funding. Our schools are drastically underfunded nationwide. That's why the whole lie about schools giving out surgeries or transgender surgeries was ridiculous. Most teachers can't even afford to have supplies in their room. Yet somehow they're supposed to be able to afford thousands and thousands of dollars in surgeries for one surgery. It just don't happen. But again, Trump loves the poorly educated. Hasn't Trump vowed to dismantle education? Yeah, he's talked about wanting to get rid of the Department of Education. The problem is that has to go through Congress. And again, I keep saying it. I've been saying it since the realization hit in after the election. We kind of saw what Congress was going to shake out to be. Republicans in Congress know they have to get reelected. And they're not going to be able to go back and get votes and tell their voters, yeah, that thing I did, I made sure that our special needs kids don't have access to school. All he's done is inspire fear with falsehoods. Exactly. There's a 3-seat majority in Congress. Exactly. The majority in the House of Representatives, that 3-seat majority, is about as thin as it has ever been. And it is definitely as thin as it has been, I believe, since 1929, roughly, when the stock market crashed and Hubert Hoover was president. Vouchers failed in Texas 5 times. Abbott keeps calling for special sessions. Exactly. He's pushing, but his own party's pushing against it. Yeah, they're not going to be able to do anything in Congress. They're going to be lucky to be able to pass a budget because they're not on the same page on anything. Republicans right now in Congress are not on the same page for almost anything. It's going to take Democrats. And here's the thing, with only a 3-seat majority, Hakeem Jeffries being minority leader, he can go to, there's got to be 3 or 4 sane-ish moderate Republicans who are more conservative than MAGA and can say, hey, you propose a budget with these terms and we'll throw our entire voting bloc behind you. Yeah, New York Republicans, something like that. Hakeem goes to him and says, hey, we got 215 votes. You get 3 that side with them, they can pass anything through the House. Trump will try to hold the country hostage in some kind of shakedown. Maybe, but again, he's limited as to what he can do, and he can't run again. So at this point, congressional Republicans don't need Donald Trump as much as he needs them. If he gets too far bad, it is entirely within the realm of possibility that they impeach and remove their own guy. Now, I'm not saying it would happen. I'm not saying it's even a high chance. But if they think that removing him is in their own best interest, you better believe they would try to make it happen. Biden put judges in place to block what Trump wants to do. Exactly. The judges Biden has put through, they have lifetime appointments. Donald Trump cannot fire them. There's nothing he can do about that. And the judges serve, like I said, their lifetime. Would Vance be much better? Yes. Vance has his own issues, and some of his ideas are way out there, and they're horrible ideas. But I think J.D. Vance is smarter than Donald Trump, in that you could approach J.D. Vance with an idea that's contrary to what he wants, and he won't dismiss you outright because Donald Trump thinks he is the smartest person in the room no matter what. I think reasonable Republicans could work with J.D. Vance and get some things done. And either way, if they have to if the Republicans remove Trump and make Vance president by impeachment of Trump and stuff, if I was J.D. Vance and or anybody, if I was the vice president who just saw their own party for the first time in American history impeach and remove the sitting president, I'd be walking a fine line, and I would basically be talking to Speaker of the House, Senate Majority Leader, saying, okay, where's the line here? What do you guys want me to say, do? And go from there. They'd be going that route. Mexico is pushing back on tariffs. Exactly. Mexico said, yeah, you give us tariffs, we give you tariffs. Try us. The thing is, in the 90s, Bill Clinton negotiated NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, which said Mexico, United States, and Canada would not put tariffs on each other at all and allow free trade across the borders, period. Donald Trump gets into office, pulls us out of NAFTA, said it's the worst deal ever for American history, worst treaty ever negotiated. He'd negotiate a better one. Basically renegotiated to the exact same treaty. It now calls it the U.S.-Mexico-Canada Agreement or something like that. I don't remember what order the countries' names are in. It's effectively the same thing as NAFTA. Donald Trump agreed to it. Again, says no tariffs on each other. So Donald Trump would have to go against the treaty he negotiated, that he said was the best treaty ever negotiated for the United States. He would have to pull us out of that treaty in order to put tariffs on Mexico or Canada. I mean, he could sit down, if somebody could sit down and talk to him and say, look, if you put the tariffs on, you're going to look dumb because you're going to end up, backing out of your own trade deal that you just said was the greatest. And what are you going to do? Back out? Renegotiate another trade deal back to the same thing? Donald can't travel out of the country because he's a felon. Yeah, there's going to be some countries he can't go to. Not that I know he did some traveling abroad as president last time, but compared to other presidents, I don't think he did nearly as much. I know Joe Biden didn't do a whole lot either. But he's going to be limited as to where he can go because of his status as a convicted felon. Now, I don't know if they're going to, I don't think they will drop the charges or put aside the jury's conviction in the New York case. More likely what they're going to do is, when it comes to sentencing, if there is a sentence, and it sounds like that is getting delayed to, but I'm not sure to when. I'm hoping you're asking that in good faith, but the charges are business fraud. When Donald Trump paid Stormy Daniels to not discuss the affair they had prior to the 2016 election, Donald Trump knew his attorney, Michael Cohen, paid Stormy Daniels' attorney. They wire transferred the money over, called it legal fees, which it wasn't, and then turned around and put it in his books, like as if when he went to repay Cohen, as legal fees. He wasn't paying Cohen legal fees. That is not a legal fee. If he would have wrote it in his ledger, NDA, non-disclosure agreement payment, there wouldn't have, you know what? I think I figured out what's going on with AJ here. And we'll just solve that right there. But that all happened before Donald Trump ran, in 2016 when he was running for president. But if he would have just wrote down non-disclosure agreement payment, then yeah, he wouldn't have been convicted. But he is a convicted felon. I think what they'll do is there will probably be a sentence, whatever it gets to it, And when they come around to that sentencing, it will be a deferred sentence until uh, after his term is up. Does Trump have to sign the papers? He came to an agreement under the terms of the Presidential Transition Act that they've made a deal of some kind. And they've gotten everything that they need. So it's starting the process. There's some stuff that Donald Trump's not doing. Apparently, they're not taking the office space that's available to them. And they're trying to do some other things. And I think it's also preventing them from having the background checks started yet. Because I think Donald Trump is still trying to use the private company to do the background checks. They want to go around the FBI checks. And Senate Republicans basically have said, yeah, if we don't get an FBI background check, we're not voting for the person. I keep freezing up. I don't know why. According to TikTok, my connection's good. 14th Amendment. Uh, 14th Amendment could be used. Problem is, if it hasn't been used yet, again, there are deadlines and time frame. Like, there's a date here in December when all the states have to have their election certified. Oh, I didn't. TJ's here. Yeah, I forgot to tell you I was going live. I just kind of jumped in and went. But there's a date when they have to have the election certified. And then, since there's no court cases going, I don't think the 14th Amendment is in play yet. However, now, one creator on here on TikTok was saying there's a chance that if Donald Trump pardons the J6 rioters, that could be considered as giving aid and comfort definitively to people who have had insurrection charges or conspiracy charges, specifically like the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers and stuff. If he gives them pardons, that could be considered giving them aid and comfort. And it would be possible potentially that the Republicans could use that as the basis for their impeachment. Yeah. Um, yeah. Now that TJ's in here, it'll be a little easier. Won't have to deal with nearly as many MAGA supporters, as many Trumplafucks. Um, Had a few earlier. You think Social Security getting more money for seniors? Maybe. That's the other thing. I know they want to cut Social Security. They want to cut it back. They're looking for ways to start cuts. But again, they can talk about it now. The problem is they got to run on that for re-election in 2 years. And senior citizens, the baby boomer generation specifically, is one of the biggest Republican voting blocs. Typically. And I know there are I know that there are boomers that are voting Democrat, and not all boomers are Republican. But if they go after Social Security, they're going to be cutting out one of their and pissing off one of their biggest voting blocks. And that's a voting block that will show up to vote in every election. Was it you that was reading my post? What post? I don't know what you're talking about. Um, Seniors vote big. Exactly. See, for whatever reason, the baby boomer and older generations, they show up to vote at every time, and they like clockwork. I'm ashamed that my Gen Xers voted for him. Exactly. I'm millennial technically, but I'm on the elder end of the millennial spectrum. I identify more closely to Gen X. Generally, just claim Gen X. Yeah, I'm a boomer on Social Security survivor from an ex-husband that died years back. Yeah, exactly. The like I know there are baby boomers that vote Democratic. I mean, a bunch of us here know the rational boomer. And, you know, hell, my parents are baby boomers, and they, this time around, they couldn't bring themselves around to vote for Donald Trump. They voted for Kamala Harris, which surprised the hell out of me. What's your opinion on immigration? Well, immigration shouldn't be stopped entirely. For one, we need the immigrants. They do a lot of work that a lot of people um, uh, we need a lot of people to come in and do the work. And there's a lot of work that people won't do, or won't do for the same price point. They won't do at the same speed and rate. A couple years ago, I lived at a place here in town. It was like a small street of duplexes. One company owned all the duplexes. And they had 30 duplexes, something like that, down this strip. And we had that big windstorm come through that year, and they had to replace all the roofs. They brought in it was a Latino crew, I believe. From what I could tell, the few times I saw them, they had the whole thing done in like a week. There's not a lot of a lot of other crews wouldn't have done it that fast. TJ says you have the same cup. Where's it from? Just McDonald's. Grab them because they're cheap. No, we don't have a come and go here anymore, unfortunately. You worked as a bartender and a catering manager for 20 years. Staff was mostly immigrants. Exactly. I've talked about it before in a live. I remember being like an 18-year-old kid reading an article in the newspaper, of all places, and they were interviewing an immigrant in New York City. Don't remember legal or not, doesn't matter. But he kept talking about this immigrant. Kept saying he could probably be a host or a waiter or whatever, but as a dishwasher, he always had a job. Okay, now you're building elevators, and you guys are Chinese immigrants. Okay, cool. I think we talked before about you building elevators. Do you think they're looking for visa citizens with work permits? As far as who to round up, I don't know. I don't know where they start. I don't even know that they do start. It wouldn't surprise me if they round up a few people, the ones that they already know, and they say, hey, you know, we already know you're here illegally. You've been caught. You're just uh, waiting around to be deported. We're going to make that happen faster now. Out you go because you were already convicted of being here illegally. And then say, you know, look at all the good work we did. Let's see. Cap asks if I'm a Democrat or a Republican. I'm a left-leaning independent. I have claimed independence since I was 18 years old. I have voted Republican, I have voted Democratic, I have voted third party. I have never once regretted a vote for a Democrat, though. I have regretted multiple votes for multiple Republicans and some third party. Oh. Okay. Rebecca says that the Chinese guys are all working for her legally because it's uh, easier on them. Marsha asks if I voted for last Bush. Yeah, I did. I didn't like John Kerry. Um, and I was young and dumb. I was 21 at the time. I only got a vote for him for his second term. I was young and dumb, still kind of riding the high from how the reaction to 9/11, and I didn't hear anything really out of John Kerry other than I'm not George W. Bush. And if I would have heard more more things out of him, I probably would have voted for him. Prediction for the next 4 years? Think they don't. The Republicans get barely anything done at all. They're going to say, they're not going to be able to pass much through their slim margin in the House. They've got 3 seat margin in the House. They can't agree with themselves. The Senate's got 53 votes. They can't get around the filibuster over there. They're not going to get any of their big stuff through. And if Donald Trump does half the stuff he thinks he can do as with executive order, some of it's going to get tossed by the courts, and the rest of it's going to be very harmful to the economy. It's going to be harmful to the country, and the Republicans are going to be between a rock and a hard place. Migrants work anywhere and learn the job if they are efficient. Exactly. Exactly. And they do a lot of jobs that a lot of people won't do. Um, just a fact. And a lot of them, they're there to work and they work. Our parents were immigrants. Exactly. Let Trump send them out and our shells will be bare, pretty much. They do a lot of hard labor, exactly. Actually, a lot got done the last 4 years, but you won't be around to hear about it. No, we got a lot done in the last 4 years. The CHIP Act, the American Recovery Act. And Joe Biden did the best he could with what he had, but you had his first term, he had a 50-50 split in the Senate, and you had two senators that were voting against him half the time. You had Sinema and you had Manchin. My son's husband is a waiter. They love him. He's sweet. Exactly. The majority of immigrants, legal or otherwise, are all here working and going about their day-to-day lives. The majority of them, they aren't causing problems. It's a made-up story. I think we got a couple more there, TJ. I'm sure you see them. But Margaret says, let them pay Social Security taxes so it doesn't peter out. Well, they do pay into Social Security, because even if they have fake papers, a lot of times the government doesn't come back and do anything. Why? Because all that money goes into the government fund, and they can never claim, because they go to try to claim any sort of benefits that their taxes pay. You know, they don't have the correct paperwork. Their numbers are no good. They don't get a claim, so they pay into the system and do not get to reap any of the benefit. Yeah, if they have fake Social Security numbers, they still pay taxes on their checks. Yeah, government still gets their cut. A lot of people don't realize that. Dwight ain't right. Exactly. They are not causing trouble. They live next door to them. They go to work, come home, and they try not to bother anybody. Exactly. I know one of the reasons why the big money donors behind the Republican Party were pushing to get this kind of a policy idea is because a lot of them that are here, even if they're here legally, there's a good number that still send money back to family in other countries. And that money leaves the U.S. economy, and they go, well, we want that to come our way. My son told me his spouse made an appointment with a lawyer to see how to go about the green card. Good. Hope they get it. Yeah, they send their money after taxes, but some of the business owners and the rich people, they don't want that money leaving the country. They want it for themselves. Anyone who thinks Trump can expel 11 million migrants is delusional. Exactly. But yeah, they send the money back to eventually bring them here. But to certain rich people, they don't care. They don't want it going anywhere else. They want it going into their own pocket. Yeah, I don't think Donald Trump is going to be able to round up the 11 million that he thinks. He's probably going to round up a few and declare victory, and over-exaggerate the effectiveness of his policies, much like he over-exaggerates his crowd size. He's probably going to, when it comes to doing the rest of it, he's going to get blocked by a bunch of it. Don't think he will go far beyond criminals and border control. Exactly. Yeah, he's gonna claim victory for a lot of it. Without immigrants, no retirement. Exactly. TJ says lots of people are getting blocked. Good. Yeah, he can't use the military. Again, he could try. Whether or not the military goes along with it, because it wouldn't necessarily be a lawful order, is one thing. And again, because he brings nothing really to the table anymore for the Republicans, and they could always replace him, uh, with J.D. Vance. The Republicans may have no choice. He starts doing some of that unhinged shit, like trying to send the military against the American people. They could have no choice but to impeach and remove him. And if he would get impeached and removed, the minute that verdict is read, where they say he is out, they will say you're effectively no longer president as of this time, whatever. J.D. Vance would take the oath of office and, yes, become president. Addison says, I would take J.D. over Trump. Yeah, at least J.D. Vance may have his own issues, but he's at least able to be dealt with. I think he's more intelligent than Donald Trump. Yeah, at the very least, he's not batshit crazy. Exactly. Like I said, you can talk to him. You can reason with him. And as I said earlier in this live, and I've said in other lives, if you are the vice president and you just saw your boss get impeached and removed for the first time in U.S. history, and let's just say the Republicans do that and they remove Donald Trump through the impeachment process. Let's say a year in, okay? If you're J.D. Vance and you just watched your party kick out your boss for the first time in history, aren't you going to be walking a tightrope? Aren't you talking to the Speaker of the House and the Senate Majority Leader and saying, hey, where's the line? I don't want to cross it. I don't want to be the second one impeached and removed this term. And of course, he would only be president until still January 20th, 2029. Then at that point, whoever won the 2028 election would be president. Yeah, they want Vance. He's somewhat rational. JD's a puppet, though. He will do whatever the powers that be want. Yes and no. I think he's more likely to do some of what they want. More likely to just follow in line with what the Republican Party wants. But then again, once he's president, if that were to happen, he technically would become the leader of the Republican Party. He would be the powers that be. Something to consider. FJP Mandel. Yeah. Man's had so many different names. I don't remember all of them. JD would be looking to be reelected, so he may behave. Exactly. And that's what I've been saying about congressional Republicans. He was one of the architects of Project 2025. He had something to do with it. I know that. I don't know how deep he was in on it. But they don't have the votes to pull off a bunch of it. They just don't. They've been trying to get variations of Project 2025 put through since the Reagan administration. He's a Gold Star member at Ashley Furniture. Oh, that's awful, because Ashley's not that good of furniture comparatively. From everything I know about Ashley Furniture, and I'll just take care of that before you get a chance to report me. Yeah. I'll never understand why these people can't just scroll past a live with about somebody talking about what they don't like, and why they can't just scroll on. They have to stop and comment and report and try to get you taken down. I'm not sure he is discerning about his furniture choices. Uh, yeah. I don't know. Where does Elon fit in? He doesn't. Yeah, TJ said he doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't fit in. He he's head of a non-existent government department. The Department of Government Efficiency does not exist. Probably will never exist. Um, and at some point, he's going to butt heads against uh, establishment Republicans. He's going to butt heads against Donald Trump. And if he starts getting too much of the limelight away from Donald Trump, he'll be gone. And something I just thought of, but the minute they butt heads and Donald Trump, kicks him out of the White House and is no longer buddy-buddy with him, I betcha Donald Trump ends up getting rebanned on Twitter. Elon will be canceled as soon as he contradicts Trump. Yeah, exactly. And the minute he contradicts Trump, Trump will kick him out of the White House, kick him out of the inner circle. But then the minute he does, Musk will probably find a way to ban him from Twitter again. Because that's just how he is. Yeah, that's hilarious though, really. Yeah, it is. The idea of uh, Trump and Musk going at it and then Musk just kicking Trump off Twitter again. Yeah, I could see it. Does he have secrets on Trump? I don't think so. I think Musk had one of the things Donald Trump wanted and needed, and that was money. He was dumping uh, a lot of money into the Trump campaign through his PACs and things like that. That's all Donald Trump cared about. He doesn't actually care about being nice to Elon or helping Elon or Elon in general. He only cared about Elon's money and getting any of it in his favor as he could. Kicking Trump off of Truth Social or off of Twitter would embolden Truth Social. Kind of, but that thing's dying anyway. And it'll definitely die after Donald Trump is out of power. But it's not turning a profit. It's not making money. They're losing money hand over fist. And, even his stock price, I haven't seen what it is lately, but it's all artificial. It's a meme stock. It's not the company's not making money. It shouldn't be this high. It's the bottom's going to drop out of that at some point. Machines will replace humans. Yeah, they like to do that. TJ says, I disagree. I think Musk has dirt on Trump. If he does, as Rebecca points out, that means Musk is playing Trump at his own game. And Trump's probably too stupid to realize it. He likes to think he's the smartest person in the room, but he really isn't. Don says, I really think Trump's tariffs will not be a thing. What do you think? I think he's going to try at least some. Maybe not on Mexico and Canada. As I talked about earlier in the live, there's the revised NAFTA thing that Donald Trump negotiated that, is going to be in the way of putting tariffs there. He's going to try on some of it. But I just don't think he's going to try the tariffs. But I read something that says even if he puts them on, without congressional approval, they can only stay on for a few months. but by the time they hit, they're going to do damage almost immediately to the economy. And once that has been, like, once they've raised the prices from it, even if the tariffs go away, those companies aren't going to lower their prices. I don't think they're going to hurt the economy. Now, there's a chance somebody between now and then smacks Donnie on the back and says, "Hey, Donald, you'll look like a real genius if you don't actually go through with the tariffs and just declare victory and say that your threats of tariffs have actually already worked for this or for that." And he might go that route too. Confirmation hearings are going to be wild, trying to get the votes. Yeah, some of them aren't going to pass. RFK Jr., I don't think makes it out of the confirmation hearings. Hegseth, I don't think makes it out of the confirmation hearings. I don't know if ambassadors have to be confirmed, but I think they do. And I don't think Charles Kushner makes it out if he has to be confirmed. Tulsi Gabbard, I don't think gets confirmed. The senators don't need him. They're going to push back against him. And they would probably, I think, to get around, for some of these to get confirmed, I don't think they need a simple majority. I think they got to get past the filibuster, which means they would need Democrats. And the craziest ones aren't going to get any Democratic support. Yeah, Charles Kushner getting nominated to be ambassador to France was ridiculous. They all have conflicts of interest. Yeah, exactly. And none of them are remotely qualified as to be in the positions they are. Linda McMahon, who I used to like Linda McMahon back in the days when I was watching wrestling. I didn't know half of what I knew about Linda McMahon now. But apparently she ran for, or was on, the Connecticut State Board of Education for a very short time until it was revealed she didn't actually have an education degree. She had an education certificate and a degree in French. Yeah, she's not qualified. There's so many are just woefully unqualified for the positions they in. I mean, I don't know if, what's the other one? Not Vivek Ramaswamy. Dr. Oz. I don't know if Dr. Oz gets through Senate confirmation. To be in charge of Medicare and Medicaid? I don't think he gets through. It's going to be like 2016 all over again when Donald Trump's not going to get many of his nominees through. And then by the time they do get through, the ones that he can get through, he's going to end up firing them over something dumb. They'll have to try to get somebody else through. And then in the midterms, Democrats take over and nobody new gets through. God. Kash Patel's a joke. Kash Patel heading the FBI. I think the FBI director needs Senate confirmation. I could be wrong, but doubt Kash Patel gets through if it's required. But like almost all of the heads of the FBI, going back, I think to at least Reagan, if not longer, have been appointed by Democrats or by Republicans. They don't all get through. They'll get a few through. Do I think Trump has anybody who's qualified? There's been a couple that I would say are more qualified than others. Marco Rubio might be okay for Secretary of State. He's not the worst choice. Um, and Pam Bondi for Attorney General might, at least she's had experience as an Attorney General and is a practicing attorney. Wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. Those two might be okay. And the one guy whose name I can't think of right now, the guy who was like the number two guy to George Soros for Treasury. That one also might be okay. Oh, Bissett, yeah. The cabinet is like Ali and his 40 Thieves, exactly. Bondi's going to take pew pews away. Yeah, they talked about it the first time around with him. Going to try to go after Second Amendment. Funny, they always like to run on the idea that Democrats are coming to take your guns. Yet, even last time, Donald Trump said, you take the guns first, figure out due process second. Republicans are going to be the ones to go for your guns, or a Republican, a claimed Republican. Trump's the one that banned bump stocks. Yeah, and that got overturned based on a technicality. Something about, if I remember right, it was how they changed the definition of what a bump stock. They added bump stocks to the definitions of like an automatic weapon or something like that, and the Supreme Court said you can't just change definitions to fit a rule. Funny how she knows the path to take guns away. Yeah. Exactly. It's almost like they looked into it. Like they tried to figure out a way to make it happen. But, of course, according to Republicans, it's always Democrats who are going to take the guns away. With Trump, it's no more overtime and no unions. They're going to try. They're going to try to do away with overtime and unions. Problem is, as of right now, I don't remember what year the law is passed on, but there's the law on the books that requires overtime after 40 hours a week. It's the Fair Labor Wages Act or something like that from the 70s, and they would have to pass something through Congress changing the rules for overtime. And again, I just don't know if that passes through Congress. Not with the margins they have. Flat Labor Standards Act, yeah. Or the Fair Labor Standards Act, that's it, yeah. Judge in Texas already did 4,000 salaried employees in Texas. What that was about was a definition by the Biden administration. If you are salary, there are certain positions and certain qualifications where they still have to pay you your overtime. And the judge disagreed with Biden's rule change and said that they couldn't make that change. That's what that was about. I worked a job where I was salary for a while. And there came a point during my tenure of being salary where they said, the company looked at the positions and said, you know what? Just to be on the safe side, to make sure we're not actually you're not owed overtime, we're changing how you do it. Now you got to punch a time clock, and you get your overtime for anything over 40 hours. Except that overtime thing is kind of a joke. At least the way the company I worked for did it is they took your salary divided by the number of hours you worked to figure out your base rate, and they gave you the half for time and a half from there. They didn't divide your time by your wage by 40. They divided it by the total number of hours you worked. So every hour that you worked over 40, technically your base hourly rate kept getting smaller, and it was a joke. I appreciated the little bit of extra money I got, but ultimately it was them just trying to make sure that they didn't get fined for not paying me the overtime I was due. YouTube Tesla equals Trump led by donkeys. Detailed factual timeline recaps how Elon got him elected. I'll have to look into it. I mean, I know Elon helped, but I think there was a lot of factors at play. I think the fact that 2020 was much easier to vote in. What do you think about investing in Mexico? What are you talking about? Are you talking about like the U.S. government spending money in Mexico to help make things better there? I'll have to check it out. I'll have to check that video out if I remember after I get off the live. At that point, it'll just be up to my memory to see if I remember to go check it out. Yeah, I kind of want to know what you're talking about there, Juan. Because invading Mexico. Again, that could be another thing that would lead Republicans to removing Donald Trump. He's got some ability, but he's also very limited as what he can do without an act of Congress. And, he's got a limit as to what he can do without an act of Congress, and it would take Congress to declare war. It would specifically take the Senate. And I just don't think that there's much love for the idea of invading Mexico in Congress, because they have to go back and get reelected again. It all comes down to that. They're wanting him to slip up. And yeah, exactly. He's going to slip up, try to do something dumb, like try to invade Mexico. They're going to impeach, remove him, and bring in Vance. The Republicans used Donald Trump to get themselves elected. They knew what they were doing. Donald Trump wasn't playing the Republicans. The Republicans were playing him like a fiddle. If that happens, who is VP? What would happen, and this goes no matter who the president is, if the vice president has to become president for any reason, whether impeached and removed, whether the president dies, 25th Amendment, etc. What would happen is, no, the Speaker of the House does not become VP. What happens is the VP becomes president, stands there, puts their hand on the Bible, takes the oath of office. After they have done that, they go to Congress with their pick, and both houses of Congress have to approve the new VP. Yeah, the peace president wants to attack Mexico. Get rid of that one. Speaker of the House does not become president. The only time the Speaker of the House would become president is if something happened to the president. Let's say Donald Trump. J.D. Vance becomes president. If before whoever J.D. Vance nominates for VP to fill the vacant VP spot, if something were to happen to Vance after that, and then there would be nobody in the White House, then the Speaker of the House becomes president. It's only in the case when there is no president or vice president that the Speaker moves up. Remember, back with Nixon. Nixon had his first VP was Spiro Agnew. Spiro Agnew found himself in some hot water and some legal trouble, and as part of the whole thing with this legal trouble, Spiro Agnew resigned the vice presidency. And when he did, Nixon went to Congress and appointed Gerald Ford to be his new VP. So Ford takes the oath of office for the VP, becomes vice president, and then Nixon resigns after Watergate. Therefore, Ford became president. And then Ford appointed his own VP. That's how that runs. Yeah, if they both die at the same time, become incapacitated. It would also apply, I guess, if something were to happen and Trump died, J.D. Vance becomes president. If before there is a VP, let's say Vance had to have, an emergency appendectomy. I don't know if he's had his appendix out, it doesn't matter. Let's say he had to have his appendix out. And he was under anesthesia. Technically, the powers of the president would then pass to Mike Johnson for the length of time that Vance was under anesthesia. Something like that. It's all about continuing the government just so there's always somebody in the White House. There's always somebody with presidential authority that is in a position where they can make the decisions if there needs to be one. But I can't recall any time when the person acting as president, like because the president was undergoing a medical procedure or something, and the VP had powers of the president, where anything major has ever happened. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, that happened with Kamala. Biden had a procedure. She was president for a couple of hours. And if something would have needed to have been signed into law, she could have signed it and it would have been law. Cheated in the election. Other countries encouraged our leaders to do a forensic audit. I haven't seen any proof of anything. I don't know if anything is going on behind the scenes. But if there is evidence, I'd love to see it. Nelson Rockefeller was Ford's VP. Okay. I couldn't remember who he picked, but it was Rockefeller. Yeah. For a time, we had a president and a vice president who neither one had been elected to their office. Ford was never elected vice president, assumed the presidency, and Rockefeller was never elected to the vice presidency. He was appointed by Ford. 2 years is your over-under for J.D. Vance becoming president. Well, LBJ was elected vice president with Kennedy. He was elected as vice president. That was the distinction I was talking about. LBJ appointed his own VP, but he still was elected into the as part of the ticket. I've been wondering about the idea of Vance being president that 2 years. And Boomer was saying on his live yesterday that he thinks it might be before 2 years because of the midterms. And I'm wondering if it might not be after the midterms, just because Republicans are thinking if they give him less than 2 years, then Vance could run for 2 full terms. I think J.D. Vance will win. What, you think J.D. will win in 28? No way. No way. Oh, whoops, 100% be there within a year. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying now. Within a year? Maybe. I was just looking at it from a practical standpoint. If they can milk Donald Trump along till January 20th of 2027, that would be, and go one more day past that, that would be just under the 2 year mark. And that would give JD Vance the potential for a 10-year run. And I think Republicans would be interested in that. But JD doesn't have much exposure. Exactly. And I think that was part of the problem with Kamala Harris. Up until Joe Biden stepped aside, she wasn't showcased nearly enough. I said early on, after she got, after they got elected in 2020, that they would showcase her a lot more. Thinking about the statement P made about Trump being in danger, it seemed ominous. Yeah. Maybe. Don't think they could take Trump for that long. Yeah. Either one's possible. I'm just looking at it from a what could they reasonably be thinking that they may, as of right now, have that be their goal. Now, whether or not in practicality they can make it to that goal, I don't know. But I know we can't litigate that on TikTok. Your logic makes sense. Well, thank you. Yeah, all we can do is talk about it, point out where they're being stupid. Gavin Newsom, if they had enough time to do a primary, maybe. But the thing is, I think even if Joe Biden had stepped aside 2 years ago and said, I'm not running, if Kamala Harris had said at that point she wanted a shot at the big chair herself and she was going to run, how do you primary out the sitting vice president? And for those people that are saying there should have been a primary or something like that, I've been asking this question, I'll keep asking it, is back in July, when Joe Biden stepped aside, if instead of stepping aside, if he had died that day and Kamala Harris had become president, had to take the oath of office that day, and became president going forward, okay? Would they still be so mad about how he got kicked aside and saying, well, there was no primary, there was no this, there was no that, they should have ran somebody else? Would you still have would you make the same argument? I don't think you would. I don't think they would have tried. Diddy got Trump set up for BJ's for appointments. Oh, TJ. Yeah, they're not reasonable or logical, moot point in trying. Yeah. Republicans aren't reasonable or logical. I mean, I can kind of see where they're thinking. It doesn't matter who ran. Trump was destined to win this one. Yeah, no. No, he wasn't destined to win this one. I think a lot of things worked in his favor that shouldn't have. But no, he wasn't destined to win this one. Because the same people that are saying Trump was destined to win this one would be crying rigged and stolen and everything else if the election results went the other way. Whoa, losing my phone here. Do you think JD gives Trump reach-arounds? Ugh, I don't want to think about it. The timing of Diddy's arrest was important. Ended celebrity influence on election. I don't know about that. No, had momentum and other things swing his way. Yeah. Numbers did not make sense because his numbers are impossible to get unless manipulated. Well, he finished about where he finished in 2020. So he got about the same number of votes. So that makes sense to me. What doesn't make sense to me is the number of people who voted down ballot that didn't vote top of the ticket or just didn't vote at all. And I think that's part of it. A lot of people just refused to vote for Kamala Harris. Dems didn't show up, or the ones that didn't vote top of the ticket. It was called pretty early. Yeah, it was called early, but the thing is they were looking at where the outs, like they had a lot of time to figure out the problems from 2020 and clean up some of that issue. So they did. There also seems to be fewer votes that were cast overall. There were fewer votes than what were cast in 2020, so that played a role. But they also just looked at where the outlying votes were and said, okay, well, there's a lot in Republican districts that have been safe Republican for 20 years or more. And that's part of how they come to their conclusions of how they called which states they did and when. I'm going to deal with that one myself. No. There. Any thoughts on 2028 candidates? Dems have a long list. They have a long list. I'm gonna come back to that in just a second. Makes me not want to bother. So they don't really count the votes. Not okay. No, they do count them, but when the media outlets are projecting the winner, it's a projection. They still finish counting all of the votes. They're just saying we're assuming, based on history, that these counties and this percentage of votes are going to go a certain way, and that's how they make their predictions. It's not about that they don't count the votes. It's kind of like saying you can safely assume like West Virginia is always going to go for the Republican candidate without having to count the votes. 99% of the time you're going to be right. But they still count the ballots. They still count them all the way up and down the thing. That's why they're still, last I saw, 3 House races that had not been called yet. Maybe they've called those final 3, but I hadn't seen it yet. Because they're still counting votes because there's such a close margin. Now, getting back to the 2028 Democrats, you got Gavin Newsom. You've got Kamala Harris, who has said it's been implied that she may consider a run again in 2028. You've got Shapiro. You've got Gretchen. Gretchen Whitmer from Michigan. J.B. Pritzker from Illinois, Pete Buttigieg, who's making inroads by constantly being on Fox News. He's getting through. Did they know Kamala wasn't polling well? Yeah, but polls have been wrong notoriously going back to 2016. 2016, the polls said Donald Trump was going to lose in a landslide to Hillary Clinton. They were wrong. 2018 predicted a red wave, and ended up, Democrats got the House. 2020 said Donald Trump gets reelected again and retakes the House. Democrats get the House, Senate, and Biden as president. 2022, polls said um, red wave for Republicans. They were supposed to take the House by 50 plus seats and get the Senate. Democrats picked up a seat in the Senate, and Republicans only had the House by 5 seats. Polls had been notoriously wrong. I don't know why people were still trusting them. And I don't know how they got it so accurate this time when they were so wildly wrong the last 8 years. I don't know if they finally changed their polling method. Polls were biased. You have to look where the information or polls come from. Exactly. I've been saying for months I didn't trust polls. You never know where they come from. I remember one as of earlier this year still had released where it was getting their polling information, and it was a newspaper poll, don't remember which one, and they were only polling subscribers to the newspaper that had a landline. Who still has a landline in 2024? Like, mostly older people who tend to lean Republican. So to me, it made sense that the poll would be skewed toward the Republicans. Dems have to actually recount, which they won't. I don't know. I don't know if there are going to be recounts. I know they're up against a deadline, and they are up against a very serious deadline. And once they get certified by the states, that's the end of it. The results are what they are, and then those electoral ballots get sent to Congress, and they will get opened on January 6th of next year, and then Congress will certify the election. So if they are doing something, or they're going to try doing something, they better do it quickly, is all I got to say. Okay. I'm going to start wrapping things up here. Been going a little over an hour and a half. Been another great live. I appreciate all of you taking the time to join us. I'm going to block one last one here, unless TJ beats me to it. So, thank everybody for joining me, for jumping in on the conversation. Gonna keep doing these. Gonna keep talking about all the things we got going on, all the news out there. For those of you that joined late in the live and want to catch the whole thing in its entirety, I do record all my lives. They will be up over on my YouTube page. I am Analytical Iowan over on YouTube. Link is in my bio. I've got my link tree up if you want to check that out. And we will do that. Like I said, I want to thank everybody for joining me, for those that ended up following. For those that did gift, I want to thank you. I want to thank TJ for being a great moderator and keeping us protected. We kick out all of the MAGAs because they all they do is report you, get your lives taken down, report your videos, get them taken down. So not worth the time and effort engaging with them. So, that's what we've been doing. I'm going to keep doing more of these. I might do one tomorrow. I haven't decided yet on that, but I'll probably have one in the next few days at least. Chris says stay hopeful. Yeah, I will. Just looking at what we're doing. And USA Patriot says, thank you for hearing me. I'll listen to anybody who's got a reasonable idea. I mean, if there's information out there, I'm willing to hear. I just from the channels I'm seeing, I'm not seeing anything credible that says anything's gonna happen. I mean, they've recounted the 2000 election since then, and it doesn't change anything. But I believe they figured out that Gore actually would have won. So maybe something they'll at least come out on the backside and prove what happened one way or another. Who knows what that's gonna prove? But I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. I thank you all for joining me. Like I said, if you want to check out the whole live, if you didn't get here until partway through, it will be up at some point soon over on my YouTube page, Analytical Iowan on YouTube. And hope you guys have a great night, and I will catch you later. All right, just wrapped up. Had a great live. Thanks again to TJ for jumping in and being one hell of a moderator. Overall, good night. So I enjoyed it. I'm going to keep doing more of these, and I will catch you the next time I go live.